my favorite thing to do.
Right. Kol Tov. Medina baby me akash velo yeshu akash velo baby me akash velo akash velo yeshu me yat kush me yat kush va vesim me ya Medina sheva vesim me ya Medina Page 15 at the bottom. Just move over a bit so it won't be under wet, okay? Yeah. Okay, so this particular teaching that we started yesterday is about, and it's a phrase in the Megillah, Divrei Hatzamot V'Za'akatam, that to know about the fasting and the crying out that we were doing at the time of Esther. And Rabbi Shlomo was talking about when we think that we're managing on our own, we don't realize that the reality is that every second, every moment, Hashem is giving us breath and life, right? The last verse of Tehillim is Kol HaNeshama Tahalil Ya Hallelujah, right? And which means every soul shall praise God, praise be God. And the word neshama, as you know, is the same word as neshima, breath, right? So there's a medrash that says, Kol neshama tahalel ya, that for every breath, I'll call neshima v'neshima, praise God for every breath, right? That was just so used to breathing all the time. When do you appreciate your breathing? When you're out of breath, right? God forbid somebody's choking, chas v'shalom. When they catch their breath, that's when you really appreciate your breathing. Okay, that's okay. Yeah.
Headache, but it's fine.
Press over there.
Yeah.
So both sides. Like right under the bone. So so he related that one of the explanations why Purim is greater than Yom Kippur is that because Yom Kippur we're making an accounting of what I've done, what I haven't done, etc., but we don't find the aspect of like crying out, like in pain, like, like, how could I have done this? How could I have done this, right? So he says at the bottom of page 15, ביום כיפור אני לא עומד בפני השם ואומר, אני לא יודע איך אני יכול להסתדר בלעדי שבת. Yom Kippur, I'm not standing before God and saying, I don't know, I have no idea how I could manage without Shabbos. אני לא יודע איך אוכל להסתדר מבלי ללמוד תורה. I'm not saying, I don't know how I could manage without learning Torah. אני רק אומר, what I do say is, אני כל כך מצטער שלא שמרתי שבת. I'm so sorry that I didn't keep Shabbos. אני כל כך מצטער שלא למדתי תורה. I'm so sorry that I didn't learn Torah. But בתענית אסתר, on defense of Esther, אני מבין שאני לא יכול לחיות בלי זה. I understand that I can't live without this. אם מישהו גונב לי 50 שקל, אני קורא למשטרה. If somebody robs me of 50 shekels, I can call the police. אבל אם מישהו גונב לי את נשמתי ואת ליבי, but if somebody's stealing my soul and my heart, אני צועק גוואלד, then I scream out like in the most awesome way. בתענית אסתר אנחנו לא חוזרים בתשובה. On the first of Esther, we're not doing תשובה. אני לא אומר, ריבונו של עולם, אני מצטער שעשיתי את זה. I'm not saying to God, oh, I'm sorry that I did this, right? But rather, we're just crying out, saying to Hashem, there's no way that I can give up being a Jew, right? And that's we spoke about this yesterday and a little bit the day before, that the whole thing about Purim was that even the most flippant Jew recognized that there's no way I'm giving up being a Jew, right? Remember, the Alter Rebbe explains that Haman's decree was against the Yehudim. And that's it can be said that anybody who wanted to give up being a Jew could have saved his life by stopping to be a Jew. And nobody did that. We just all mamish like said, that's it, like, and that's the whole aspect of Ad Lo Yada. It's beyond reason. ישנו משפט אחד מבעל ארון העדות, and I don't know who that sefer is. He says שהיה נכדו של היהודי הקדוש. There was a Hasidic Rebbe who was known as the Holy Jew, the Yid HaKodesh. So and he was a grandson. בעל ארון העדות אומר, כל פעם שיש שאלה על חיים ומוות, כתוב בלשון והיה. אין והיה אלא לשון שמחה. Whenever right, so there's sometimes it says vayehi, and sometimes it says vahaya, right? So vayehi is, the rabbis say vayehi b'mei Achashverosh, vay, whenever it says vayehi, it's an indication of something not so good about to happen, right? Vahaya is positive. So he says whenever there's a question of life or death, you'll have the word vahaya. Ein vahaya elo l'shom simcha. Simcha, vahaya indicates something happy. Haya, hey, yud, hey, mamash noten chayim. These letters are like giving life. Katuv Yosef haya b'Mitzrayim. Yosef was in Egypt. He was bringing about the eventual salvation of his family. Ish Yosef HaTzadik natan chayim l'chol ha'olam. He was feeding everybody. Ish Yehudi haya b'Shushan HaBira. There was an Ish Yehudi in Shushan HaBira, right? And his name was Mordechai. Purim ze lo she'ela shel Yahadut. Purim ze she'ela shel chayim or mavet. Purim is not a question of what kind of a Jew are you going to be? It's a question of life and death, right? And we learned yesterday that paradoxically, the more important something is in your life, the more it looks like what? That you can live without it, right? Isn't that paradoxical? Right? Like a lot of people think, oh, I could live without Shabbos, I could live without Torah. That's what we need the most, right? And you know, it's yeah, we are very paradoxical creatures. I told you once that I may have told you that years ago, this couple that were both students in Batayan were getting married, and her parents came in for the wedding from the States, and I put a little drop of wine spilled, on her dress, and the rest of the wedding, I literally saw this with my eyes. Her father did not enjoy the rest of the wedding. At one point, she comes up, "Daddy, I'm so happy," and he's looking at the stain. Right? There's so much good to look at, and what do? We look at what's not good, right? So we have so many reasons to be happy, and we look at the one thing that makes us unhappy. And you can, okay. So he's saying that Haya is like, I think actually this person phoned me up yesterday for something altogether different. A friend of mine, his mother is passed away a couple of years ago, and at the shiva, he said something very interesting. He said his mother was a Jew that came from Russia, and he grew up in somewhere in, I think they call it Long Island or whatever it is, and he grew up in a town where he had like almost no Judaism, and he says, in fact, he once went to a friend in his high school class, went to his house, and he couldn't believe it that the guy's father had a Nazi flag draped on the wall. Like it wasn't like a very pro-Jewish type of place, okay? So when he was around 17, 18, and this guy's like, by the way, like, a think tank mind. He works for a think tank over here. And he started getting interested, somebody's at the door. Okay. Started getting interested in religion. So what did he do? He went to the East, and he actually learned Sanskrit. Like he's one of those guys. Like if he wants to know something, he wants to know the whole business, right? So he one day his mother, and he told the story when he was sitting shiva. His mother says to him, and eventually came back to Judaism, and he's a Shomer Shabbos now and learns Torah and everything. And his mother said to him one day, she says, "I don't understand you. Why are you running around, to the East and to this and to that? You're a Jew." And he says to her, "But you never taught me anything about Judaism." She says, "But isn't it enough for you just to know that you're a Jew?" You understand? For this lady, that itself was clear to her. This is who I am. And then that itself was like, so you don't fast on Yom Kippur, you don't do this, you don't do that, you don't do that. Yeah, but I'm a Jew. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. And it's like really, it's amazing. Okay. So he says, Madua Nachtum on page 16, Shaya. Madua Nachtum notnim mishloach manot ish lere'ehu. Why do we give each other gifts of food and Purim? Madua notnim mashu lechol. Why are we giving something to eat? Well, don't you all know the answer? It's the Jewish thing to do, no? Es mein Kind, eat something. Do you want me to put my fingers on you? No? Es mein Kind, right? So he says like this, Purim we're celebrating life, being alive. B'Yom Kippur is not a question of Yom Kippur is not a question of about Shaya, pass the book, please. Yom Kippur is not a question about life so much. It's true, we have the book of life, the book of death, and so on, right? But it's like, so he says, Zekain, it is also. I'm afraid on Yom Kippur that maybe God wants to punish me. But I personally, I could have lived without it, right? In other words, I personally could have managed. I could have lived without it. It's just that knowing that this is the day of judgment, so therefore, right? In other words, if it wouldn't be the day of judgment, I might not be so concerned about doing tshuva over this or tshuva over that, right? But because it's the day of judgment, I'm concerned about it, right? So, I say, God, I'll tell you the truth. If you wouldn't have said that in the Torah that I can't have a hamburger on Yom Kippur, I would probably be eating. But since you wrote that it's forbidden, so I feel bad that I did it. Page 17, when I'm asking my friends to be forgiven on Erev Yom Kippur, I'm basically saying, it was a sin that I offended you, that I hurt you. It was a sin. So I ask you for forgiveness, right? But what am I doing on Purim? I'm sending you something to eat, because I want you to know, I can't live without you. So I want you to know I can't live without you. Huh? I think about it. And you're not asking a question. If you're saying that,
I have an answer.
What he's
I have an
saying
answer in mind,
is,
but I'm not sure what answer he's.
no, what he's saying is that's the difference between Yom Kippur and Purim. Purim, you're so aware of life and what it means to be a Jew that mamish you can't. What you want to be is in that state of mind where you're consciously saying, I can't live without you.
Is the idea of the food, like we're giving them like food?
That's right. It's like it's a way of expressing, like, it really makes a difference to me that you're alive. It really makes a difference to me. It's not that why not. It makes a difference to me.
Because Jews are responsible for each other. We're all one.
Everyone has a purpose.
If that's right, yes. Because if one is missing, we're learning this week Parshat Pekudei, the last parsha about the building of the Mishkan. If one hook was missing, a simple hook, then the Shekhinah wouldn't dwell in the Mishkan.
There's a song, this Israeli song. We're all one human fabric.
Right. Shira, can you get the door, please?
Yeah.
That's something specific to Jews, but not everyone has.
Okay, so and the same is with the Sefer Torah. If it's missing one letter, it's not kosher for public reading. Right? So show him the police. Okay? So it's not like, why not? It's, where are you at? Okay? So he goes on and he
I was
says,
asking
well,
because I wanted you to clarify it.
that's
That was
okay.
helpful to me.
Good.
I wasn't challenging it.
Page 17. Baal Aron Ha'edut Amar, in the fifth line. Okay? Baal Aron Ha'edut Amar, דבר תורה שממש נכנס לעצמות שלי. So this same author of the Sefer said something that really got into my bones. Purim זה שאלה של חיים או מוות. Purim is a matter of life or death. יותר מפסח, even more than a פסח, מפני שבתור עבד אתה יכול לחיות. You can live as a slave. You have to on page 17.
I know, I need to listen.
That's okay. That's okay. I didn't know if that you know or not, so I told you, that's all. She says, Purim זה שאלה של חיים או מוות. יותר מפסח, מפני שבתור עבד אתה יכול לחיות. You could live as a slave. מדוע לא קיבלנו את התורה בצורה עמוקה מספיק בהר סיני? Why is it that we didn't get the Torah in a deep enough way at Mount Sinai? That 40 days later we made a golden calf, etc. מפני שזה היה פינוק. It was like a treat, like, we were spoiled. A ילד מפונק means a spoiled child, right? פינוק is a treat.
Because we didn't have to work for it.
אני אוהב את זה, I love it, אני חושב שזה יפה, it's beautiful. אולי אני אקח את זה, maybe I'll even take it. but בפורים ברור לי שזה שאלה של חיים או מוות בדרגה הכי גבוהה. Purim, I understand that the Torah is a matter of life and death on the highest level. Right? That's the difference, right? And the Alter Rebbe explains that, I mean, this is, I think I mentioned that the Gemara says that you all know the story about God holding the mountain over our heads and saying, boys and girls, you want the Torah? Brooklyn accent, of course, had to be. You want the Torah? And, and we looked and we saw that, that there was some butter on his fingers and the mountain could slip down over our heads easily. So we said, yeah, right? Now, so the Gemara says that means that God forced us to take the Torah. And if God forces us to take the Torah, then I have an excuse. If God says, how come you didn't keep it? So I can say, you forced these laws on me, and now you're holding me responsible for it, right? So the Gemara says that excuse was good only until Purim, because at Purim we affirmed our acceptance of the Torah, even though God was so utterly concealed, right? So the Alter Rebbe explains that what is it, that the mountain over the head is just a metaphor that God showed us such tremendous love that it was like we were being embraced and being held from outside, like the cone, right? Like we were surrounded with God's love, and we had no choice but to look, but to face God and to see how much He loves us, and therefore we were just overcome with that love, and we said, of course, we want the Torah, right? So Purim, Hashem was utterly concealed. And we got to the place where we affirmed our acceptance of the Torah, right? Meaning to say that we got to the place where we realized it's not just that we want the Torah, it's that you can't live without it. There's no value to us living without it. Okay? So he says that אני יכול לחיות גוואלד, I can live, אבל איזה סוג חיים יהיו אלה חס ושלום, שזה לא יקרה לאף אחד, but what kind of a life is it going to be? God forbid, it should not happen to anybody. אבל יש אנשים שבמשך כל חייהם הם משותקים. Okay? Can you move that box? No, Shaya, move that box in a place where he nearly tripped on it. We're on page 17, middle of the page, right? So he says, I can live, right? But what kind of life is it without the Torah? It shouldn't happen to anybody, but some people are like paralyzed all their life. פעם ביקרתי בבחור בן 17 ששכב בבית חולים. I was once visiting a 17-year-old in the hospital, and הרופא אמר, the doctor said שהוא יכול לחיות עוד 60 שנה. The doctor said he could live another 60 years, אבל נבח המוח שלו לא עובד, but he's pretty much brain dead. זה הדבר הכי גרוע בעולם, it's the worst thing in the world, right? In other words, without the Torah, what kind of consciousness would we have? You know, it's like a whole level of life that that we didn't even know about, right? The Purim ani magia ledagah, we're at the bottom of the page 17, 5 lines from the bottom. The Purim ani magia ledagah שזה ברור לי שהעמלק הוא לא מישהו שנותן לי עצות. It's clear to me in Purim that Amalek is not just somebody giving me advice. Halachti lepsycholog halo nachon, and then I realized I just had the wrong psychologist. Ela Amalek zo shela shel chaim u'mavet. What Amalek is telling us is poison for our spiritual lives. Okay, poison for our well-being, right? Remember, Amalek is taking away our self-confidence. Amalek is saying that there's no such thing as being totally real. Even when you're doing the best thing in the world, you don't really mean it completely. Or even if you really mean it, it's not going to last, and so on and so on. So Amalek is like saying, I told you the story that when we were here the first time in 1989, so one of the women in the community was converting, and I asked her. I said, like, and by the way, if you know anybody that wants to speak to this in the process of conversion and wants to speak to somebody about conversion, she's a great person to speak to. So her name is Tamar, and I said, no, I'm sorry, Keter. And I said, do you mind if I ask you? I want to understand why you're converting, And because back in Montreal, like the only converts I came across were people who did it because of a marriage, like somebody was marrying somebody Jewish, and the family insisted that So I never met any, So she said no. So I said, so tell me, I want to understand, what drove you. She had a very interesting story. She said that when she was 6 years old, her father was one of those kinds of guys that, weekends were spent under the hood of the car, tinkering with the car with a case of a 24 case of beer, and with his friends. And she says when she was 6 years old, she asked her father, "Tell me about infinity." And he said to her, "Little girl, there ain't no such thing." And she ran away crying, 6 years old. Anyway, she grew up, was around 18, 19, and went to the East, and she met some Jewish kids there, and they were going back to America. And they said to her, "Listen, we're going to be going through Israel. You want to come with us?" She said, "Okay." And she said when she came to the Kotel, it was like she found what she was looking for all her life. Okay. And nobody even told her anything. She just, I don't know, like she's obviously a super sensitive person and so on. But in any case, you understand, it's like like Amalek is like saying there's nothing else. Just go, as long as you have a job and you're good health and you can go shopping and you can play pinochle. Anybody know what pinochle is? So it's I don't even know myself. I just know that these old people back in the old days when I would see old people, what are you doing? Playing pinochle. So anyway, anyway, That's what Amalek is about. There's nothing more to reality than commercial, utilitarian life, etc., etc. And that's the big danger of Amalek. Yeah, there are good people, there are bad people, there are people who are good today, tomorrow they can be evil, because nobody's really good. Everybody has this evil animal inside themselves, etc., etc. That's the way it is. That's Amalek. There's no this is life, and there's nothing else, and you can't change it. So Purim, you get to the realization that, man, Amalek is like really, really bad, right? So he says, Maha Hevdel ben Simcha Litzchok, second last line on 17. Now, what's the difference between joy and laughter? Right? You ever, anybody here ever read, what's his name? You ever read the book Siddhartha?
Yes.
What's the name of the author?
It's
Herman
Hesse.
Hesse.
Herman Hesse.
Herman Hesse. So he also wrote an actual book, a very serious study on humor. Like why do you laugh when you hear a joke? Why do you laugh? Why do you laugh?
It's something that's different than what you expect.
Right? Okay, so good. Now this is something that you weren't expecting, that punchline, right? And so it's sort of like, in a certain sense, it's like the joy of of realizing something that you didn't realize before in a certain way, but it's humorous, right?
That's joyous humor. It could be also uncomfortable. It could be nervous.
Yeah.
All kinds of
Yes,
laughter.
true. Okay.
Embarrassment.
Now the sad thing is, like once Shlomo was, we have a verse that says, then in the future our mouths will be filled with laughter. So he says, the truth is, most people, we don't know how to laugh, and we don't know how to cry. People laugh at stupid jokes and dirty jokes and so on. But like real laughter, how many people do you know that when they hear good news they just laugh? Huh? I hope you know some, right? But Baruch Hashem, good. So he says, what's the difference between joy and laughter? Tzchok, Pegusho Simcha Ein Sofit. Laughter is like being in touch with infinite joy. Ani lo yachol hafsik liyot sameach. It's like I can't stop being happy about it. Im ze she'ela shel chaim hamavet, when we're talking about a question of life or death, he says, Ani lo sameach. It's not happy, but rather ani tzochek, I laugh. Im danim mishu lemavet, if somebody is on death row and umodiim lo sheyesh lo chanina, and they tell him that he's been given a reprieve, or he's being released. Haim hu sameach, is he just happy? Lo yachol lehamin, he can't believe it, right? Im chas v'shalom mishu taveya, somebody's, God forbid, drowning, and in the last moment of his life I save him. You made me so happy. It's not a matter of simcha. It's a lot deeper, right? It's a lot deeper. Mashiach when Mashiach is going to come, Katuv, it says, then our mouths will be filled with laughter. Till Mashiach arrives, I thought that Mashiach's coming, it's going to be happy times. I would be very happy if he would come. I would even like to meet him. I would like to get his autograph. I'd like to be at his first concert. I would like him to invite me up on stage. עד שמשיח בא, אנחנו חושבים שזה עניין של שמחה. Until Mashiach is going to arrive, we think that it's just a matter that it's going to be a happy time. אבל כשמשיח בא, but when Mashiach will finally be here, אז ימלא צחוק פינו. Then our mouths will be filled with laughter. אני מבין שזו לא שאלה של שמחה. Then I'm going to realize it wasn't about happiness. אני ממש לא יודע איך הסתדרתי. I just won't even, I just realized that I have no idea how I managed. So הייתה ממש שאלה של חיים ומוות. It was really a question of life and death. She says, I want to tell you one more thing. אני רוצה לומר לכם משהו יותר עמוק. I want to tell you something deeper. יצחק אבינו לא נקרא שמחה. When Yitzchak was born, his mother didn't name him Simcha, but she named him Yitzchak, right? Yitzchak זה מלשון צחוק, laughter. אתם יודעים מדוע יצחק נקרא מלשון צחוק? You know why she named him about laughter? כשלאברהם ולשרה נולד תינוק, when Avram and Sarah finally had a child, זאת לא הייתה שאלה של שמחה, it wasn't a matter of joy. אם אתה חושב שלאחר שיצחק נולד, you think that after Yitzchak was born, Sarah אימנו פנתה לעזרת נשים של בית הכנסת של בעלה, that Sarah went to the women's section of her husband's synagogue ואמרה and said, אני כל כך שמחה, I'm so happy. נאום קלאסי, like, you know, like this classic statement. האם אתה יכול לדמיין את שרה אימנו שאומרת אני שמחה? Can you imagine Sarah saying I'm happy? אז היא מלא צחוק פינו, ממש גוואלד, she was out of her box, like, you know, like with laughter. That's Yitzchak, right? In other words, unbelievable, like, you know, it's beyond expectations. So simcha is something that you expect things to turn out well and you're happy that they turn out well, right? Tzchok is beyond. It's beyond, yes.
See, I think that this, what I understand from this is that this is also can be a message of how we approach life, and to appreciate life is an absolute miracle. Every breath that we have, we were able to move like that 17-year-old boy who was brain dead and couldn't move anything, and he was still breathing. His life he didn't have real life. But every moment of real life that we have is such an amazing miracle that to relate to life with total joy. And
Correct.
what I don't
Correct.
understand yet, and
Yeah.
I've been asking you a few times that I haven't been asking to very, very well, maybe you said it before I came. I've read this chapter 3 times last night. I still, what I don't understand is what does it mean about, what's the connection to that in Torah? It could be true for any human being, whether they're Jewish or not. The message I just said about being joyful and being so grateful for life and being to accept life with such amazing sense of miracle, that could be for any human being. What does that have to do with
I didn't say
Torah?
that that's not true for everybody. That's true for everybody.
But where's the message here in Torah that it has to be Torah?
Because
I don't see it written in the chapter.
Because
What we just read in the chapter we just read, where does it come out? That it's Torah, that's connected with Torah.
Because the whole thing in Purim is Kimu v'Kiblu HaYehudim, that we affirmed our acceptance of the Torah. That the whole thing is that as a Jew, I need to know that my life as a Jew is dependent on having the Torah. My life, to being grateful for being alive is true for everybody. But for me as a Jewish person, I got to come to the realization that I can't live without the Torah. It's another dimension of life. We're not talking now just about the miracle of breathing. We're talking about this whole other dimension of Torah.
It's like when Sarah Imenu was Smith, it wasn't just that she was having a child. She's having Beis Yisrael. She's having the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't just because I'm right here in my situation now I finally have a baby. It's like the whole thing.
Think about it. We're not just talking about physical life. We're talking about the whole life of connecting heaven and earth. Right, remember, Anochi, the first word of the Ten Commandments, Anochi, the Gemara says, is an acronym for Ana, Nafshit, Ktavit, Yahavit. Hashem says, I'm giving you my life, my soul in writing. Right?
Say those again.
Ana, Aleph, Nun, Nafshit, Ktavit, Yahavit. I'm giving you my nefesh in words. Right? In other words, the Torah is all about incorporating Hashem's essence into your being.
Is joy and serenity synonymous?
Is joy and what?
Is like joy and serenity, deep serenity, the same thing? Because one of the deepest joys that one can experience, like in a whole like mind, body, spirit, right, is like serenity and peace.
But yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily synonymous. That is,
You think they're two different experiences?
the you I mean, there are people who are living through hardships and still can maintain serenity, but they're not going to be joyous necessarily.
We may not be like clapping and singing, but who says that that's joy?
I understand, but
You can get joy out of the serenity, but they're just two separate words and two separate things.
the what's your favorite dessert? Look at her face. Look at her. See, if you were just serene, you wouldn't have
Right.
reacted that way.
I would say the serenity is more of a prerequisite for joy. Joy does not necessarily have, doesn't necessarily, if you don't
You can have joy.
serenity,
You can have joy 5 minutes a day and be very unserene the rest of the day.
it's true. But
Don't we
that
have
one-
like many words for joy? We say like a Shabbat brachas, like
Gila, Rina, Ditsa, Chedba,
Right, there's like a lot of
Hava,
different
Shalom,
aspects.
Zirayut.
One of them shalom.
There are different, right? There are different aspects to it.
You
Right?
think that joy, objective,
Hmm.
you're saying joy.
You know, once on Moshav there was a holy yoga lady there, and Shlomo says, so the holy yogis and honestly the Eastern religions, they say annihilate yourself before God, become one. And Yidden is saying, Mamish, be who you are, be your Mamish an individual, and like it's like
And with Bittul.
with Bethel, yeah. So it's a whole different direction. They're all valid directions.
Be who you are, and nullify yourself to God.
Like a woman who just gave birth after she's even had the baby, I wouldn't say she'd probably say that she's feeling surrounded. She has adrenaline going through her. And she just gave birth, but she's for sure joy.
Yeah,
For sure, like
yeah.
a great stage.
I'm thinking of like the greatest sages, like they weren't necessarily clapping and singing and
So
whatever,
what you're
but they were
talking about is
completely-
Shiviti Hashem L'negdi Tamid, okay? And I place God before me at all times. And the word Shiviti is from the word Shaveh. So there's a concept of Hishtavut. Hishtavut means that it's a consciousness of being aware that whatever is happening is coming from God. And therefore, Kishem Shemevachim al Hatov, Kach Mevachim al Hara. The Gemara says that just like we thank God for the good, we thank God for the bad, right? And that's why mourners make a bracha before the funeral. They make a bracha, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam, right? Dayan Ha'emet, blessing the true judge. So there was a big Rosh Hashiva back in Europe. His name was Rabbi Meisels, and this, like in the old days, rabbis really avoided trying to make a living being a rabbi. So this Rosh Hashiva, like he was in the lumber business, which basically meant that he would buy rights to a certain amount of forests, and somebody would, and there was some company that would do the logging, and then During the winter time, then the logs would be dragged out on the snow to the river, which was frozen, and then in springtime, they would be floated down to the port. And if the current was a good current, like everything would arrive safely, and you made a lot of money. But if you got a raging current and you couldn't control the logs and they got washed out to sea, you lost your pants. So one year it happened, and he was already an older man, and the logs got washed out to sea, and the family had to come and tell him that they went broke. But they were worried about his health and how he's going to take it. So they asked one of his top students to figure out a way to relate this news to him. So the student brings out the Gemara and he says, Rebbe, can you explain this Gemara to me that the Talmud says that just like you thank God for the good, you thank him for the bad? So he says, well, what's the problem? So he says, well, I can accept that when something bad happens, that God is behind it also, and that I can acknowledge that. But when something good happens, I feel like dancing, like I'm joyous. And so I have to thank God in the same way. So he says, well, it's a good question. Let's look at the commentaries. They look in the commentaries, and the commentaries explain that when the Talmud says kishem, just like, it means just like. So he says, Rebbe, start dancing. And he fainted. When they revived him, he says, I guess I don't understand it either. Understand? So that's the, understand? So there is a level of hishtavut, there is a level of consciousness, like for example, the Baal Shem Tov. But even the Baal Shem Tov, there are stories where he just was not willing to accept certain things that were happening, and he would, and he, there's a story that once word came to him about a community, a small Jewish community, where the people were forced to convert under threat of death, and those who didn't convert were actually killed, and then those who did convert were also killed. And he received word about this. It was a Friday afternoon, and like Mama, she fell to the ground and crying and screaming and everything. And it was already time to go to the mikveh. He didn't get up. It was already time to get dressed for Shabbos. He didn't get dressed for Shabbos. He was time to daven. He didn't daven. It was time for Kabbalah Shabbos. He didn't daven. And he was like that on the floor, and the students were like standing around like nobody knew what to do. And finally, close to midnight, they hear him saying, Good Shabbos, Adam. And then a couple of minutes later, he says, Good Shabbos, Avraham Avinu. Good Shabbos, Yitzchak. And he eventually got up. And at the end of Shabbos, he told his students that he basically was refusing to continue. He wasn't going to do anything anymore. He was handing in his resignation, so to speak. And Adam Avishun came and tried to make peace between him and God. And Abraham Avinu came to try to make peace between him and God, and Yitzchak and so on. And he says, until the Shekhinah itself came and promised him that something like this would never happen again, he didn't get up off the floor. So what does hishtavut mean? You know what I mean? Like, so he totally believed that because Hashem was involved, but he just, he wasn't willing to accept that. So, but still, otherwise, the Baal Shem Tov teaches that that's the whole idea of Shivitzi Hashem v'negdi tamid, is to be on a level of hishtavut. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. It's all coming from God. It's all good. Understand? But still, by the way, that's something that you're allowed to say only to yourself. Don't, somebody else who's in pain, don't be so religious on their back. You know, which is another problem that we have. We're very religious on somebody else's back, no? Right? And so that's the, you know, so if you don't understand tzchok, if you don't understand, like, like what it's going to be like, is because we need Mashiach already here, because only then you're going to realize that, wow, it's like, like somebody is drowning, and at the last instant they're finally saved. I don't know if you've ever seen somebody that was just rescued. They're either laughing or they break down crying like crazy, because it's like, or like you were saying, the woman after birth, they're either like they're laughing and they're crying like crazy, It's it's something beyond, right? Beyond the day-to-day experience. I told you a story about this the Bible Shachosida went into he was looking for a bathroom in the 50s. I told you about the funeral home. Yeah. You don't know the story? Shlomo told the story. Well, half of it. Yeah. He was in Borough Park. This in the 50s, from Borough Park. And he needed to go to the bathroom. So he walked into this place with Morgan Davids on the door, and it turned out that it was a funeral home. And the usher says to him, please sign in, Yeah, remember, so he's not going to tell him, I didn't come for the funeral, right? And then in the end, there were all of 2 people there at the funeral, and this man didn't have any next of kin whatsoever. And he had left it in his will that whoever attends, that his estate should be divided up equally among the people who attended the funeral. And a few months later, he got a check he didn't know this, and a few months later, he gets a check in the mail for like $50,000 or $75,000, which was a fortune of money. And
That's cool.
That's the son, That's the son. So son is also when you think that this person, when you find out that like somebody that you thought was really your enemy, but in fact was really your best friend. It's another aspect of tzchok.
Of laughter.
Yeah, it's like you thought that like this person is ruining your life, but in fact they were building you up. They were doing the best. Okay, so Baruch Hashem, the out of the box, so to speak. Thank you for being here. Hope to see you tomorrow, Mr. Shem.
Yesterday, did you do the story of
Pinchas?
yeah. So I